Awesome. So before we get started on the topic of the call, I just wanted to go over some of the recognition for tonight. So Maggie and Samantha are already at Success Club. I know we only have 2 more days of the month, and myself. Tanya, Megan, Brooke, Anthony, and Ashley are all wicked close within 1 or 2 people. So I know there's still plenty of time. I'm still pushing for 10. I'm only at 8. So I know you guys can get there with 48 hours left, maybe more. I don't know how much is left of the month. And then for the health bet, it starts on Monday, but you need to have your challengers signed up in the app by the end of the day on Sunday, by midnight on Sunday. If they're not signed up in the app, they're automatically disqualified. So I know that I have a group going. If you're having them be in the health bet, if they want the pot, you can add them to our group. I'll make you an admin if you want them to be in it. I have like 10 people, I think, already, and I'm going to do a side group chat to keep checking in on them. But it's awesome because you can just log into the back office and see them. Sam, when you are an admin, can you add people? Can you send their email or no? Will you check that? Because if not, just send me their email addresses. But they just get them at least signed up, even if they haven't purchased their challenge pack or whatever they need to do. And then we'll be going over that more on Monday. Actually, no, we don't have a call next week. It's a holiday. I was thinking about doing a power hour later this week, so maybe we'll talk about it then. All right. So I just want to introduce Kyle to you guys. Kyle was my Uber driver in Nashville, and he took us around, and he has an amazing story, and he's so fun and amazing. And he's actually an author of 3 books, I think. I thought 2, but I actually think 2. I thought there was a 3rd one on your website.
Just 2. I think the 3rd piece on the website is a leadership curriculum.
So 2 books. So what we're going to do is for September, along with all of the other things that we have going on, we're also going to be doing a Go for Yes challenge. And I was on the Team Z call a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, I hate Go for No. Like, that's just setting yourself up for disappointment if you're all about the universe and, affirmations and all that stuff. Going for no is just setting yourself up for failure. So we're doing a Go for Yes challenge in September, and Kyle's books are going to be the prizes. So I'm pretty psyched for that, and I'm going to get myself them too. And I put his website on our team page, and I'll link it to his Amazon, where you can buy the books on Amazon. I've only seen good reviews, so I'm psyched to get those for myself as well. So Kyle, if you want to just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and then taking it away.
Yeah, for sure. And the first thing I'll clarify is people ask me, well, if you're an entrepreneur and an author and these things, why are you driving for Uber? That's the first question I usually get. And honestly, I love it. I think it's super fun. And so I spend some mornings doing that to see my city that I live in, to meet new and interesting people. I often walk away with business cards or things like that. So for people who can appreciate a side hustle like you guys, I'm sure you can appreciate something like that, where you're going into it with kind of great intentions to get people where they're going, see your city, and also meet some great people. But yeah, I am originally from a small town called Marshfield, Wisconsin. It's home of the world's largest round barn and the world's largest urinal. So humble beginnings there. But I went to Marquette University in Milwaukee. I ended up having some cool experiences. I got to be a walk-on for the Marquette men's basketball team. And I also spent a year training in the Army while I was there. So I got to learn a lot from some strong military leaders along the way. And at the end of my college career, I sat next to someone on a plane who moderately changed my life, and I can tell you more about that guy later. But that was the reason that I really started pursuing writing of a book. And to my surprise, my first one got published right after I graduated. And for 2.5 years, I traveled the country and I spoke to high school and college students about leadership. And I got to speak in 45 different states and really hit the road. But I studied marketing and entrepreneurship in college. And so I figured I don't necessarily want to be working for someone else my whole life. So I figured I needed to do it on my own. So at the start of this year, I started my own company. Through my company, I published my second book, and I moved to Nashville to kind of make new and interesting things happen in my life. So that's where I'm currently at.
Awesome. That is very exciting. And it's so true. We all have or actually all of us, except one of the girls on the call everyone has a second job. We all are just trying to make this our full-time job until we can get there. So we understand working all hours, and it's obviously a great way to meet people. So
yeah, definitely.
Cool. Take it away.
Yeah, cool. So, I ran a couple topics by Katie about kind of what you guys might want to hear about, but I also need to be just really transparent with you. Every time I speak, I play a lot of guitar for my crowds and my audiences that I talk to. And that was something that initially was so difficult for me because everything I do is like acoustic rap and moderately comedic. And so it was very fun and funny, but I also wanted to then like switch gears and be taken seriously on the leadership side. So just from like a branding and authenticity piece, like that was kind of tough, but I'd love to play you guys something to kick this off, if that's okay with you. All right, cool. So I have my guitar here. So I grew up in Wisconsin listening to rap music. But in Wisconsin, none of the rap lyrics that you typically hear in those songs make any sense. And so I was listening to a song by Soulja Boy called Soulja Girl. And, I figured, what if she actually was a soldier girl? So this was a song that I wrote while I was in college. Carry that rifle like a soldier girl, 'cause you're going off to war, you're a soldier girl. Get a new flashlight and hold it, girl. Can't wait till you get back so I can hold you, girl. You the best girl in all of the land. It's probably not that hard 'cause you're in Afghanistan or Iran or Iraq. I like the way you study with that camo backpack. Hi, my name is Kyle. We met last summer. You were shooting a 50 cal on the back of a Hummer. You were looking pretty cute in your boots and your camo. I hope in real life you never run out of ammo. Let's meet at 0500, soldier girl. You'll never enjoy the sunset, soldier girl. Take out your sleeping mat and fold it, girl. Can't wait till you get back so I can hold you, girl. We met at 0500 when we normally meet. You were looking pretty cute on that war-torn street. You were in ACUs and your LBEs. I'm not in the army, so I don't know what that means. You're a soldier girl. You taught me how to react, not to love, but to a squad attack. Like Forrest Gump, don't get shot in the tush. When you get back, I'm gonna hit you with an ambush. I'm drinking from the canteen, soldier girl. No time for dancing, soldier girl. Take out your grenade and hold it, girl. Don't pull the pin or you'll explode it, girl. Now watch me, you.
That was awesome. Thank you.
So that had become just a really big piece of kind of everything that I was doing is these goofy songs. And so I feel like at the very start, and this is kind of a talk that I'll give to people sometimes, is when I was learning guitar, all I knew how to play was the G chord. It was the one thing that I just loved. It was just beautiful to my eardrums. And that's all I knew how to play. And so people said, do you know how to play guitar? And I would just strum a G chord and say, yep, I got this. But then I started to realize that that wasn't really guitar. I needed to kind of push myself out of a comfort zone and play a D chord and a C chord, even though they're really small, little changes. And I feel like we're consistently pushing to make those little changes all the time in our lives. Is we don't have to take that 1,000-mile journey to make the shift that we're looking to make. But sometimes it's the littlest things that will really push us enough so that if that 1,000-mile journey is the end goal, we can then take that journey because of the little journeys that we took along the way, because nothing is happening overnight. So the D chord, the C chord kind of led me to that F chord where it's difficult. It hurt my fingers at first. I didn't want to do it. But once you start to take those little steps, kind of the bigger ones start to fall into place too. So I figured I'd kind of play a fun song for you guys, but also I feel like everything that I talk with people about is those little changes and making sure that you're taking little steps every day. And when you start to do that, you notice over time, because it's a patience thing too, that bigger things can start to happen because of that. So that was a little piece. And so I'll tell you a couple stories, but feel free anytime anyone wants to just unmute and interrupt me, ask a question, or say like, Kyle, don't tell us that one. It's not fun. So I'll tell you about, a lot of times people will ask me about writing these books and just like the time it takes and to make sure that you're dedicated enough to really push yourself to do that. And the book idea really started for me. I had been interning for a leadership development company, and I kept saying, hey, you got to give me a shot. You got to put me out there. I need to try to speak with you guys. Would love an opportunity. And they always said, you're a junior in college. No, what do you have to offer that, our lead trainers going out on the road don't have to offer? And I'm like, youth. That's what I have to offer. I'd give them a different idea every day. I'd say, you're connecting with high school and college students. I can connect with those people. Or I'd come in and play songs and say, why don't we do it this way? And I just kind of kept trying to get that foot in the door. And the first thing that they ever put me out on was in Phoenix, Arizona. And I went and I spoke for 10 minutes. I think it was really short, and I really thought that I bombed it. And I wasn't feeling good about the trip. And we raced to the airport because we were about to be late for a flight. And my boss at the time said, Kyle, you got to go in. You got to try to stall this plane. I was like, what? Like, you can't stall an airplane. But he's like, just run through the airport. He's like, I need to return the rental car, so you got to try to hold it for me just as long as you can. So I ran through the airport. I got to the flight. I checked in. I got up to the front where the flight attendants were standing. And I was like, hey, you have to hold this plane. I'm like, well, first off, calm down. And they were like, secondly, why? What's going on? And I said, my boss is late. He's going to fire me. He's going to fire me if I don't make this flight, which was not true at all. But I just really wanted them to hold the plane. And they were like, okay, like, we'll hold it for 2 minutes, but please just go take your seat. And I was like, thank you so much for holding it. Does this type of thing happen to you guys a lot? And just started the most awkward way possible this conversation. And they kind of said, actually, yeah, it does. This happens quite a bit. And we ended up talking for the next like 7 or 8 minutes until my boss came flying onto the flight and made it on in time. So first off, quick lesson, like that relationship, as you guys know, like the relationship building is super important. But they're like, okay, like what time is it? Like go sit down, take your seat. So I go to my seat. We're all getting ready, like we're buckled in. And the flight attendants come over to me and they say, hey, Kyle, so your boss got upgraded to first class. And I was like, good for him. Thanks for telling me. I don't know why you're sharing that with me. And they said, well, we thought it would be really funny if we upgraded you instead. I was like, that would be funny. I think that would be great. So they got me out of my seat. They walked me up. I kind of did like a peace sign to my boss as I walked past him to first class. And I sat down, and it was my first time ever like flying in first class of an airplane. And I was in college. And so I just was like looking around, like, what is this magical place where they're serving me like orange juice before we've even taken off? And this guy next to me clearly just knew what I was doing. Like, I had no clue where I was, what I was supposed to be doing. And he said, like, what's your story? What's going on? Why are you up here? Kind of thing. Ended up being this guy. His name was actually Guy. So it was this guy on the flight. And we ended up just talking for the whole flight about business, about books, about life. And at the end of the flight, he said, Kyle, I want to make a bet with you. I said, all right, what's the bet? I don't have much to offer. I'm a broke college student. And he said, you know what? I've done pretty well for myself in my life. And if you read 2 books by my current favorite author, and they don't have more of an impact on your life than 2 books from your current favorite author, I will fly you to anywhere in the world you want to go and back for free. I was like, what do I have to give you if I lose? But he said nothing. Like, I've done well. Like, I would love to do this for you if I've wasted your time. So I said, okay, I would love to do that. So I left that flight, bought those books, read those books, and was excited about it because I thought that the lessons inside were really meaningful, but I also just thought that they really didn't hit on some of the topics in the way that I would have described them. And being a millennial, I feel like that was an issue that put me over the edge. So I decided that I was going to write my own book and that I was going to build the lessons in the way that I wanted to make sure that they got across. And I wanted to do it in a story and make sure that people were engaged throughout the book. So not X's and O's, not bullet points, just like, here are things that matter, but the reasons why they matter are not because you're reading them in a book. They're because, you have things you want to accomplish. They're because you have families that you need to care about. They're because you are much more happy when you serve others. And that's scientifically proven now. And so, those types of things, I don't feel like can be told just in a bullet point framework. They need to be told through stories, and they need to engage people. And when you can engage people in the right ways, they're more likely to remember some of those things anyway. So that was the impetus for writing my book. But kind of putting in the time and effort on one project, first off, patience was insane, especially as a college student going into my senior year of college and saying, hey, instead of going out and partying with friends, I'm going to wake up early in the mornings and I'm going to write a book that who knows if it'll ever be published. Like, who knows what's going to happen with this. But just putting in the time and the energy every single day was so important to kind of reaching that goal. Because I think a lot of people will say, I have thoughts, I have ideas. And every time I start writing, other thoughts and other ideas come up, and then I chase that. And I've just found that if you really know what your end goal looks like, it's much, much easier to stay determined, to stay on that track. If you really set yourself up in a way that is, in line with the vision that you have for your future. So that was a piece about my book. I'll tell just one other thing, because a lot of times people, ask kind of what makes me credible to do some of this stuff. And there are a couple things that I would say or that I would give to people, like, well, this or this or this. But to be honest, at the end of the day, what makes anyone credible to do anything? I feel like that's something that we always kind of have as a barrier to the things that we want to accomplish is, like, am I the person who can say this to someone? And so, I have a lot of friends who, have really taken on like diet programs or, and it was Steve Jobs who kind of said, the world around you is built by people who are no smarter than you and I. And once you kind of realize that and come to terms with it, you can have much more of an impact on other people. But for the sake of moderate leadership credibility, so I tore when I was 10 years old, which is an incredibly young age to have a knee that doesn't work. And so I had periods of my life that were Forrest Gump-esque, where I had a huge brace on my leg. I just couldn't really do too much. And they couldn't do surgery on it because they have to wait for your growth plates to come together. So I had to wait till I was 16. So I had to wait 6 years before I could have surgery on my knee. And in the mix of that time, I just started to think to myself, like, well, everyone's telling me that I can't do all of these things. I can't play basketball. I can't play soccer. I shouldn't be running. But I really needed to push that. And I feel like people are often telling us those things, like, you can't do this. But the reasons might not be as clear-cut as you think. So I started playing basketball. I started playing soccer, and I I was young, but it gave me just an extra leg up, no pun intended, to have people who were incredibly averse to your success, who would think like, oh, you're not supposed to do this. Or in basketball, they'd put their worst person on you. In soccer, they just think that you could never score a goal. And you talk about like an internal fire that started to brew, but it just really made me want to prove people wrong. And so I had surgery when I was 16. I was a sophomore in high school. But prior to having surgery, this is one of the things I'm most proud of, actually. And I had made varsity soccer and varsity basketball without an ACL. And I went on to be an all-state basketball player by my senior year. And then I went on to be a walk-on for a Division I basketball program. And so 4 guys I played college basketball with are now in the NBA. So just kind of an interesting thing to start where I did, which was at a place where people can't usually walk, and to really just challenge the limits of what you're actually capable of, and to say, I don't believe you. I don't believe you when you tell me that I can't do something. I know that I can. And I feel like when you say that to yourself, it's just 100, it multiplies everything by 1,000,000. You know, it's not even, you can't put a number to it, because that internal belief, I think, was more impactful for any athletic success that I ever had. Like, it wasn't like I'm a 5'10" dude and I'm pretty scrawny, and to be able to then start playing with guys who are at the highest level was pretty cool. And I feel like I still do some of that. So now I've run 4 marathons, and I've done that on 3 different continents. So I've run the original marathon from Marathon to Athens, Greece. I ran one in New Orleans, so I've seen the city you're going to next. I ran Portland, and then I ran one in Singapore. But again, then people would say, like, how do you do this? But, I just really think that when you believe something is possible, you're much more apt to go after it. And I'm sure you guys have seen this, because you are what I think of when I think of people who would watch like leadership documentaries or things like that. Right. But the new Tony Robbins documentary, have you guys seen it? So he swears a lot, just so you know. Need to tell you that right off the bat. He swears a lot. But there's a line in there that I think is so meaningful, and I feel like I've thought about this every day since I heard it, and it was, people overestimate what they can do in a year, but they grossly underestimate what they can do in 2 or 3 decades. And I just think that's so true, where we have such high standards for ourselves in the course of 1 year, and we get stressed out about our lives, and we think that everything is falling down if we don't hit the goals we've set for ourselves. And a lot of times people quit and then don't go after things. But I just know from my experience of wearing a knee brace for 6 straight years, just the power of persistence, because compounding interest doesn't just happen with your financial situation. I feel like it happens in your life too, where the more you build, the more you're able to build. And so I feel like that has just been a key part of building my business, has been a key part of the books that I've written, the leadership curriculum. It's an 8-week course specifically for high school students. And it's delivered through the course of 16 emails. And in every email, there's a video with what I like to call life work, because I think people overemphasize homework. And I think every single day we all have life work that we can be doing, just one tangible step that we can be taking to impact our lives for the better. And I kind of map it out for high school students of like what that step is over the course of 8 weeks. But I'd also, I just think it's important for everybody to at least think about that. Like, it's cool to say like, hey, for my job, here's what I have to do. Here's my X's and O's. But what about for my life, for my health, for my happiness, for my kids, anything what is my life work for the day? It's not your job. It's not your homework. but it's the thing that actually like would make you much happier, would make you more satisfied, would give you purpose and drive to actually work on the things you're working on. And so, you know, and I believe that too. I really believe it. And I proved to myself recently that I believed it because I read a book called Love Does. It's all about like what we love, how that interacts with us and how we, you know, push our thoughts into the world. But after reading that, I was like, what do I love? Like, what do I spend the most time doing every day? What am I, you know, working on? And the thing that stood out to me most was my mom forever has wanted to go to Ireland. And I called her and I said, we're going. We just need to go. We need to go to Ireland. And so in about a week, I think a week from now, we're leaving for Ireland. And we're just taking an amazing trip. And she said, you know what, Kyle, like you started your own company this year, like financially, can you do this, all this stuff? And I said, Mom, when I'm 90 years old, I'm going to regret a lot of things, I'm sure. But one thing that I'll never regret is spending $1,500 to take my mom on the trip that she's always wanted to go on. So I feel like I've said a lot of things throughout the course of this, but like, I feel like I'll open it up and just make it more casual. But I feel like a couple things would be just like that patience and to be disciplined enough to work hard over a long period of time for something, if that's really what you want. Because I've often heard and said that, you know, a lot of people who start companies or do things entrepreneurial are very ambitious, but you also need to have an equal level of ambition and patience so that you're not consistently like trying to get to the end of a race, but you can still sprint anyway. You can maintain that pace for a long, long time and keep sprinting without saying like, well, this is the end, or this is when I've made it, or this is when I've got there. So I just think discipline, patience, taking small steps, and then also just, you know, making sure that your life is in tune with the way you want to live it, because that will affect your work more than anything.
That was amazing. First of all, you brought all of us to tears, I think, with your mom's story. I have tons of notes, but first of all, with that mom story, I know lots of us on this team have set goals for our whole family, and mine is actually to retire my mom one day. And so that story was just amazing, and I love that and that's kind of taking a risk. You know, it's not easy to do to just up and say I'm going to spend this money and go do it. So that's amazing. Do you know the names of the books that you were recommended to on the plane?
Yes. And the one that actually had the bigger impact on me, so because I can't fully remember the name of the other one, was called The Traveler's Gift. It was by Andy Andrews. I do love, people always ask me that question, and I'm like, well, you should probably buy my books first.
Right? We definitely will be.
No, but that's what, I feel like that's in the leadership realm of like, I would love for you to read those books too, because they impacted my life, you know, like go ahead, read those books. That's great. So
we have like basically 4 vital behaviors, 4 things that if we do them every day, you're bound for success. And one of them is personal development. So reading we're always looking for new books and to be inspired by new things. Brooke asked if you still talk to the guy from the plane.
I don't. And a part of me thinks that he was like just put in my life for just a specific reason where, you know, I sent him emails afterwards. I think he responded to the first one that said, he just said, like, congratulations, I think your parents would be really proud.
Aww.
And after that, I really, once a year, I think, I've sent him emails just to say like, hey, by the way, like, I published, you know, and I'm starting my own company and like all of these things, and have never heard back from him. But I think people are in your life for a season and for a reason. So
that is so true. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Sorry if I'm like
so you said that you do a lot of the training for high schoolers. Is it what's like the most difficult part about motivating them? Because I feel like some people that we work with act like high schoolers. So any tips on motivating people of that realm?
You're going to get me so fired up right now. The hardest part is they all wear these cool jackets. And I say that they're like figurative cool jackets where all of them think they're too cool to participate or be a part of whatever it is that's going on. And I fully believe that people need to stop pretending it's boring to be alive. It's not. We live in an amazing world where like, and you guys heard Gary Vee, like you could not be here. Like mathematically, like if your mom had another glass of wine, like he said at the Beachbody conference, you wouldn't be you, you know? And I just think that there's so many amazing things throughout the course of the day that people don't recognize because they get too caught up in what their stresses are and what their worries are and their fears and their goals that they haven't achieved and their doubts. And I think with high school students, that's definitely the case because they're worried about like, well, if I participate, what is Jenny over there going to think of me? Because she's kind of cute. And they can't put themselves out of their comfort zone enough. Like you said, I'm sure you guys run into that all the time where I don't think that's just a high school thing. I think that's a timeless thing where the people who really are able to push themselves to be authentic and to not only like do the things that they believe in, but then to tell other people about them and to show and to lead by example of like, hey, this is what I did and this is the success I'm having, or this is how it messed me up and let me try to get on the right track again. But I just feel like really trying to get them to embrace the fact that it's not boring to be alive and you have things that you can believe in and work on and be passionate about. And it's okay to kind of take your cool jacket off every now and again and pursue some of those things like being authentically you.
That relates so well to our business. And one of the things that I loved is that you shared your story with us, and we talk about that often. I talked about it today. You shared your story with us, and you gave us this background that at the end of your story, you said this one line about your mother, and you brought us to tears. If you hadn't, told us these stories to leading up to that, I'm not sure it would have had that same effect. Though a guy talking about his mother always gets a woman. So, but I think that is a really big part of our business, and we were talking about that today. But I wanted to ask you a question because I personally, there aren't a lot of men that are in MLMs, in this multi-level marketing business. It's women driven, which is amazing for women, but I think it's an untapped market for guys. We have a couple guys on our team, but not a ton. And I feel like it's kind of because we're good at taking selfies and, sharing that part of things and not uncomfortable with it. And I don't think guys are quite, they get mocked and made fun of. Like every single time one of these guys posts this picture, someone has a negative comment to say, even if it's just guys being guys. But I'm like, well, he's making money and losing weight and you're just sitting there eating your Doritos, so calm down. But, so especially for guys or girls, your age, this is kind of a more like late 20s to 30-year-old business, I find, or maybe that's just because that's where I am and that's what I recruit. But I wish that people your age saw this opportunity as like an easy entrepreneur way. Someone at my office the other day, we have some interns now, and I was like, oh, I used to be a lifeguard because they were saying that, and I was like, that was my first job, and she's like, oh, good, then there's hope for me. And I was like, oh, honey, this office job, don't think that's good. This is not a good thing. I'm like, there's so much more out there for you. Keep going. But she couldn't think beyond sitting at a desk all day. How would you talk to like people your age about realizing that the MLMs are a possibility for them?
Yeah, I just think they're the easiest way to become a millionaire. And that doesn't mean it's easy. Right. I don't want to throw out the word easy. Easiest, because you don't. Yeah, because when you start a business, most of the time you have to deal with the manufacturing, the idea, the concept, proving the concept, figuring out who your target market would be. And I think that MLMs have really taken a lot of the core work of starting the business away, and have allowed you to be entrepreneurial without having to be a full-on, I'm an entrepreneur because I invented this, or I'm an entrepreneur because my company produces this. You're an entrepreneur because you've chosen to be. And by taking a lot of those things out of the equation, you're basically saying, well, that's amazing, because now if, one, people trust me, two, I can prove to them that this is a viable solution for them, and three, I stay pretty likable over the course of time. If that's the case, well then over time, you're hopefully building a community that's not just a one-off. You know, you have a lot of companies that say, well, we're going to sell this. Well, that's great. But what happens when your market has bought that and then it's gone and you're done selling things and it's not renewable? So I just think, one, you know, not having to deal with the manufacturing pieces, not having to build like the financial side of a company or to put up huge amounts of initial capital, to not have to worry about some of that, but to still be an entrepreneur in the sense that you can create a renewable program for a team of community members that will hopefully stick around for a long, long time. You know, I just think over 5 years, 10 years, again, it's not easy, but that patience, that discipline makes it the easiest way to become a millionaire.
I totally agree. I have so many friends opening restaurants right now, and I'm like, I used to work in the restaurant business, and I'm like, I know how much it costs to start a restaurant. This costs $140. You could be making your return on investment within a month. But
well, I'm just preaching to the choir right now too. So I feel like that was a long-winded answer that all of you have already given to other people, you know, but I just justified it.
No, it's true. I agree. It sometimes just takes us being persistent, like you said, with sending our message about that to get people to believe in it and not think it's a scam, because it does sound too easy to be true, because it is.
And the idea that there are so many out there. I think that's the biggest thing that MLMs are up against right now, is just the fact that, you know, why, and there are obviously answers to this, but I think from a customer standpoint, this is a question that's always going to come up, is why should I do Beachbody over Advocare, over Prove It? You know, the ketones are now what people are talking about so much, and like, who knows? And so when people are kind of inundated with some of that stuff, they tend, or like, it works, you know, all of these things, when they see it a lot, they tend to tune it all out. Whereas, you know, a lot of it is very valuable to them. But they've gotten, you know, the market has gotten saturated in the fact that people aren't taking the time to differentiate the MLMs, and they'll say, look, I need to go on a diet, but so-and-so has been posting about this for 3 years, and so-and-so's posting about this, and I just don't know which one to do. So I'm going to try Atkins and give up bread.
It's so true. And we always say, like, Beachbody as a company is selling hard work. We don't just say, drink a shake and you'll be fine. It's not like a miracle pill wrap, whatever catch is out there. It goes equally hand in hand with clean eating and exercise. If you're not doing the three combined, you're not going to have success. We know that. So I think that's kind of where sometimes people tend to go sell leggings or skincare, because you can just sit on your couch and sell leggings. Like, we actually believe it and do it every day. And it's a little bit more difficult in some regards to get the longevity of people, because it is hard work.
Yeah. And people underestimate that too. And just in the sense of, everyone says the easy this or the quick this. And the fact is, like, nothing is like that. And if it is, you're probably going to be unhealthy in 10 to 20 years. You know, maybe if it makes you a little more healthy now, it's more detrimental to you in the future. I knew somebody who was vegan said to me the other day, he was like, you know, people always come up to me and they say, well, you're vegan. Like, I bet I could beat you in a fight. And like, because you seem weak, like you're weaker, you know, like if you're a vegan. And he said, no, man, I would love to fight you. in 50 years when you're dead and I'm still here.
That's awesome. It's so true.
But it's always work, and life is never easy for anyone. And I think sometimes we forget that about the people around us. We think that we have it very difficult or that our lives are hard. But we tend to not give other people the benefit of that doubt too. So just kind of understanding where people are coming from when it comes to not only the way we treat them, but also just, if they're interested in something like Beachbody, to make sure that they actually become a part of the community and you get to know them a little bit further than, which I think you guys know that already too.
No, that's perfect. It is so true. And I am so thankful you are on this call. And if you want to do other teams calls, I will definitely recommend you and get your book out there into our bigger teams. We're in a bigger team. My coach has a team of about 2,000. So we'll definitely spread your name to try to get you out there. Does anyone have any questions before we sign off? Because this was awesome.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you. Sometimes our calls are like just really like informational, but this was really inspiring, and I find those calls are my favorite. So I'm going to highly recommend people watch the recording of this one. This is a really great call. Thank you.
I forgot this was being recorded. Oh no.
You're going to be a YouTube sensation very soon.
Oh no, that's what I had that on my notes. I forgot to. We have another call hopping on, so it'll just be one sec for the other guys. Yeah. But I forgot to tell you, everyone else on the call, that he has your video on Pokemon went viral. Pokemon.
Oh yeah.
He has a viral video of him singing for like the Pokemon, whatever it's called.
Yeah, I made a Pokemon love song. I think it got like 32,000 views, something like that.
It was crazy. No, I thought it was more. I forget. I looked recently.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you?
I'm not sure.
You can find him on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, team cup people. We're just finishing up our team call. But I think that's all I have, Kyle. I appreciate this so much. Really, it was fabulous. I'm going to be re-listening to this call and checking out the book and some of the other ones, and I'll spread your name.
Cool. Thank you guys so much. Good
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.